Push one, push one.
So downrigging started by accident. We had completed building Sultana in 2001, and Pride of Baltimore had come to Chestertown for many years. And we set up a sail between the two boats where they went out in the Chester River together, and everybody loved it. So we said, let's do it again next year. And we had so many people who wanted to do it that we just have kept adding boats and adding boats and adding boats, and that's where downrigging came from. There are really three different types of boats that come to this event. There are the big passenger carrying tall ships. And then in addition to those, we have some really quite big boats, but they're privately owned. So Coastal Queen is one of them. I mean, I could go on. There are 20 or 30 really beautiful, unique, traditionally built wooden boats. And then we have a group of small boats, 1 or 2 person little boats from groups like the Traditional Small Craft Association or the Antique and Classic Boat Society. And those are really important because those are the boats that most people who come to this event can aspire to. And they're like, oh, that's a boat I could own. And it's just a different scale. It's really neat to have the giant ones next to the small ones. I think the unique thing about downrigging is, I don't know, there might be, but I'm not aware of anywhere else in the country where annually this number of boats get together, and the main purpose is taking people sailing. So we take about 1,200 people sailing during the course of the weekend, which is great, and it's also a social aspect of it. A lot of these crew members on these boats know each other, but this is one of the few times where they actually get to spend 3 days in the same place together, which makes it a unique sort of event. Our process here is very fluid. It's very sort of Chesapeake Bay. Chesapeake Bay is a little more relaxed than, say, New England. We don't advertise for boats to come. We don't go seeking boats. Boats come to us. And, are they wooden? Okay, check 1. How cool is it? Check 2. Is the person reasonable to work with? Check 3. Are they willing to stay the whole weekend? Check 4. If someone is really high maintenance, maybe we're not the right boat festival for them. This is a very low-key, relaxed thing. And we've grown the network over years. We try to switch them in and out so it's not the same boats. So it's sort of like rotating crops, and you bring some new boats in every year. So over 20 years, we've really built up a great network among a huge number of people. The tall ships, the private boats, the small boats, and all the other people that make this festival work. This is a very slow-growing festival. It has grown, over 25 years, very slowly, and that has created just a really strong community.
It's nice that Coastal Queen is not only being used by the family, but also
she's able to go to these events like the Downrigging event in Chestertown, Maryland, because it really shows off the boat itself, the history of the boat, but also our work and everybody that was involved in it at these larger shows. And you know, having that boat not be exclusive to the family, but being able to be part of the wooden boat community, I think is really nice and very important to get other people excited about about this industry in general and about saving pieces of history.
They actually had the Coastal Queen Restoration Series playing at the event, as people could walk up and see the boat, and then they actually were playing the Restoration Series right there next to the boat at the event.
Our involvement with Coastal Queen started many years ago when we were introduced to Peter Kellogg, and he brought his Barnegat catboat Silent Maid to the festival, which went out and sailed with the tall ships, and it looked awesome. And I think Peter, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think he recognized that this is a different sort of festival, and I think he liked it. We've been aware that the chance to have Coastal Queen was a possibility for a few years, and you know, as the rebuild went along, we were hopeful that she could make it last year, and she couldn't quite, so we were super thrilled to finally have her this year. And we've been putting up all the videos. It's one of the most popular parts of our website, and people in town have been looking forward to seeing her, you know, for 3 years now. So it's great to finally have her.
Mr. Dickie is a scaled-down Chesapeake Buyboat. We actually started with lines from a boat called Monday Point over in Reedville, Virginia, and then scaled that down by about 40%, so it went from 60 feet to 36 feet. 36 feet long, 8 feet 4 inches wide, which means nominally it's trailerable, and it draws 3 feet 6 inches under the back of the keel. Wanted to scale down a known buyboat, the Monday Point, which is a 60-footer plus. And when you scale everything down in proportion, all of a sudden the pilot house is 3 feet 6 inches tall. And I can't stand up in that. And also conventional wisdom is that you don't change the size of a boat by more than 10% without causing trouble. So I worked with a naval architect, Dave Wyman, who used to teach at the Maine Maritime Academy, and said, okay, here, Dave, here's what I want to do. And I've scaled it and I realized I'm way over my head. And so I sent him the lines and what we were trying to do, and he said, okay, let's move the engine forward so now you can drop the pilot house sole to the floor. Right. And the pilot house dimensions become back in proportion with the rest of the boat. Typically on a buyboat, you can walk the decks on either side of the pilot house. On something this narrow, we couldn't do that, and so the pilot house goes right out to the cap rail. It's still cable steering, and when those two sets of eye splices in the steering cables line up, you know the rudder's centered, and also then the marked king spoke with the Turk's head is at the top of the wheel. I knew I wanted to build a boat that was in keeping with the 1930s, which meant a slow-speed engine of some sort. So I spent a lot of time looking for a low-speed diesel, which is not manufactured anymore. And at a national park in Michigan, it's an old Coast Guard station. There was a lifeboat and a little sign that said, Buddha diesel, 40 horsepower, 1400 RPM. And oh, okay. It was a line of engines that the Navy took over at the start of World War II and put them in the captain's launches and whaleboats and lifeboats. And so now I knew what I was looking for, and got home to Virginia, and dang if Atlantic Diesel in Gloucester, Virginia didn't have one. The normal buyboat would have had a cuddy up front for this sort of crew accommodations. When you don't have a whole lot of room, this is what you get for sleeping accommodations, which works very well. A regular buyboat, you'd actually have stand-up headroom in the cuddy. This one we don't. But if you want to change clothes, you shut the doors and stick your head out the hatch and nobody sees anything. No, I'm Wesley Grigg Mullen Jr. Middle name is G-R-I-G-G. Last name is Mullen, M-U-L-L-E-N.
And how should I, buyboat builder?
Oh, hell.
Builder?
Overeducated carpenter.
Okay.
I'm actually a PhD and a professional engineer, but
okay.
Yeah,
I like that title.
Joseph B. Clancy is a 1901 oyster dredge that also farmed clams out of Long Island Sound. It was owned by the Frank Flowers Oyster Company. We brought her down and happy to restore her and use her for family functions and just kind of cruise around and enjoy her. Yeah. So a friend of mine, Dave Cantera, and his daughter went up and looked at the boat and told me about it. And he said, this is the boat for you. So we packed the truck, through necessities that we needed for the trip. And we went up to New York and went right to the boat. I bought it sight unseen, jumped on board with all of our gear, and off we went. The first night we went to the Gladsky salvage yard and took Hell's Gate all the way down, and that was day one. We came into Barnegat. We stayed the night there. We stayed at the yacht club. It was kind enough for the Kellogg family to open their house to us, in which we stayed that evening, and she was worked hard. And through the trip, you start kind of envisioning some of the improvements and what you envision the boat becoming, but I feel like the boat kind of tells you what it wants to be. We reefed off her seams. We recottoned everything, seamed all the compound, all the seams up, and tried to seal her up. Originally when we brought her down, she was pumping 4 pumps at all times. Now we're down to 1 pump that pumps every few minutes. And I feel like that's an accomplishment, especially on a boat that's 126 years old. Yeah. This boat was built in 1901. My plan is to retire her, which I already have, and use it with friends and family. As you see here, we've got a picnic table, crabs. That's kind of the idea and thought for me. Bounce around from port to port, burning 3 gallons an hour while cruising at 8.5 knots with 500 gallons on board, and share the history of it. It's a piece of history. This is one of the where boats came from. It's part of the heritage of boating, and it's unique. It's one of the last ones that's standing.
The NED is a buyboat that was built in 1957, and since 1983, Echo Hill Outdoor School has used it for their summer explore programs. We take kids out on it for 4-night, 5-day trips. We go fishing, we do a lot of swimming, exploring the shoreline and different islands around.
All of our boats, it's all educational. We do a couple of overnight programs now and then with 8th graders. We'll do, up to 5 days sometimes. A lot of it's 2 days or 3 days, and we'll bounce around the bay. We'll go down to Rock Hall, Annapolis, St. Michael's, wherever.
Our goal is to give people a positive experience outdoors and show them what it would be like to be out there on the water. We get to go and visit a local waterman who pulls up a bunch of crabs, and then we usually eat a whole bushel of crabs out there on the deck.
We sail for the Delaware Bay. We sail for education in the Delaware Bay, and there's so much historic commerce between the Delaware and the Chesapeake Bays. It's really fun to get to be down here and kind of explore that.
I have a lot of fun kind of sharing the experience with these students. I came to living classrooms because they represent like the quintessence of Chesapeake Bay labor and economy and heritage. You have buyboats who are meeting pungy schooners or skipjacks in the middle, so that instead of wasting time by going back to shore, you introduce a middleman. And I think that being able to share a fleet that represents every part of that process is really special to me.
We have 8 boats here this weekend, 8 big passenger carrying boats, and half of the captains are women, which 24 years ago when we started the festival it was 1, and there have been years when it was 0. I tell you, when we take school children out in Sultana, it's enormous having a female captain, because you have these 3rd and 4th grade young girls who may not have ever seen a woman in that sort of position of authority, and it means a lot to them. So it's an awesome thing for us.
So the history of Downrigging Weekend is the last weekend of the sailing season for most of the ships, and after it's over, we downrig our vessels. We take the rigging apart, bring it inside, fix anything, take the sails down, maybe they need a little stitch here and there, and lay the ships up for the winter. So Downrigging Weekend was conceived as the last hurrah of the sailing season. We get everybody together. It's a cool part of the public experience to see us actually starting to downrig.
I think the coolest thing about this, there are other ship events that are bigger and have more ships, but what is unique to this is you have Chestertown, which is a colonial era town, the period when these boats were out. It's the same size as it was in 1776, and you're sticking a fleet of period appropriate boats within reason in front of it, and it just works. If you put the same group of boats in New York, you wouldn't even notice it, or in Baltimore, you wouldn't even notice it. But here, it's like, wow, this is big. This is like the Super Bowl for us. And that's why it works.